our opening scene, we see a girl entering her house in the middle of the night after saying goodbye to her boyfriend. And all she can hear is just silence inside her house, and she looks in the mirror and cries out to her mom and dad. She searches for them, but she finds nothing. And then she hears this thumping sound coming from her room. And she opens the door and she sees her mom. But her mom is chopped up in half and there's blood everywhere. The girl starts to scream, obviously. And then she turns around and she sees this guy with a bloody knife in his hand. She tries to run away from him, but she falls down and she cries out. She says, "No, please, no." And she calls him dad. And that's how the movie begins. And as the movie begins, we see the life of Aaron, and we see him having a job interview. He tries to convince the interviewer that he can really pull off this job, but it doesn't really work out. So Aaron, who's incredibly frustrated at this point, goes back to his apartment and finds out that he's been locked out because he hasn't made his payments in time. And when you think that life has gone bad enough for this dude, just wait. In a bit, he gets a phone call from Lisa and she tells him he needs to return home. And why is that, you may ask? Because his father died. That's why. So he goes back to his old neighborhood and almost gets bit by a dog, and he walks into his house and it's pretty old and decrepit, and he walks upstairs and finds his mom sitting by the window. When she sees him, she's happy and angry at the same time, but she offers to give him some food because, you know, that's what moms do. And Aaron starts to eat his cereal dry, and his mom talked a little bit about his dad and how he was so proud of him because he was about to be a lawyer and he was all his father talked about during his last few weeks. And on the day of the funeral, it's all quiet and sad. Everybody was looking for his mom to pay their respects, but she was upstairs crying, and Aaron finds her sobbing by the window and tries to comfort her as much as he could. And at night, Aaron starts packing up his things and he thinks about his father who used to sell antiques for a living. The next morning, Lisa comes to help Aaron with the sale of the antiques. And when this guy Ty comes over to check on Aaron, Lisa gets a little uncomfortable and she excuses herself. Ty is actually a good friend of Aaron's. And Ty explains Lisa's behavior to Aaron by telling him that it's because of his interaction with her boyfriend. Apparently those two don't get along much, I guess. And Aaron was just selling the antiques, but his mom didn't really like that idea because she didn't really want to depart with the last memories of her husband. And she gets very furious with him, and he tries to apologize, he tries to calm her down, but she still kind of explodes and just goes back inside. And around the evening, Aaron was on his laptop checking prices for his father's antiques. His PC dies, he gets a little frustrated, and he decides to go outside for some fresh air. And outside, one of his best friends spot him, and they decide to hang out at his place, and they smoke some pot, and they talk about old times. And then they go out to grab some drinks, and this dude tells Aaron that Lisa's partner beats her, and she's actually hiding it and not telling anyone. And after all of that, he leaves and he goes to this gas station, he buys a bottle of beer and a bingo card that he loses, and after giving it a second thought, he goes and buys another card and he scratches it and he actually wins $5,000. He gets very excited, he tries to go to his room and pack up, and then his mom calls him and apologizes for screaming at him earlier, and she kind of sort of begs him to stay longer, and he's like, okay fine, I'll stay for a couple more days. And he goes back to his room and he tries to fall asleep, but he hears these sounds and he opens his window, he starts screaming at the dog that almost bit him, but does the dog shut up? No. And Aaron just decides to close his window and fall asleep. And the next morning, he wakes up to this very loud bang on his door. And when he opens it, it's his neighbor and he just barges in. Unsure of what's going on, Aaron inquires into why this dude is acting this way. And he tells him that someone shot his dog last night and that he thinks it's him. And after dealing with all of that, later around nighttime, Lisa and Aaron go out to grab some groceries. And Aaron starts an argument about Derek, and she gets upset and she just leaves him standing and drives away. And as he was thinking about it and walking, he gets hit by a car and he collapses to the ground and he starts to bleed to death. But he doesn't die. He wakes up in a hospital, and the doctor tells him that he's actually pretty fortunate. But they did have to reconstruct his face a little bit. Ty enters the room after the doctor leaves, and he apologizes. But Aaron tells him that it was an accident and that it's okay. And Ty tells Aaron that Derek detained him for drinking at work because he had a few dates with Lisa, and Derek is the kind of guy that gets jealous. He starts screaming at Lisa because she told someone and she said that she wouldn't, and when he continued to yell at her, she just leaves. And the following day, Lisa goes to pick up Aaron at the hospital. And Aaron was having a good day that day because the doctor finally removed the scar that was across his lips. And he gets home feeling pretty enthusiastic. He talks to his mom, who's feeling pretty down because her husband died, but she's pretty joyful to see that he's actually gonna stay at the house a little bit longer. And then we see Aaron brushing his teeth, and seeing his own reflection causes him to wake up from a nightmare. He drinks some water and just tries to calm himself down. And after he gets dressed and goes to the living room, he sees his mom overdressed and just cleaning everything. He's pretty alarmed and surprised to see her, especially because she was playing music, but he decides to just go with it and dance with his mom. And when Lisa walks into the room and sees them dancing, she's also pretty surprised to see them that way. And then Aaron and Lisa leave for a picnic, and he tells her that she deserves more than Derek. She deserves more than a guy that just beats her up whenever he wants to. And following his very passionate comments, they kiss. And as Aaron was in the car, talking and smoking pot, he sees his mom dancing with a demon, mistaking it to be her husband. He then drives to his best friend's house and he knocks. And he's very shocked to learn from his mother that this dude passed away a year ago. And he discovers that he's communicating with Jeremy's soul when he visits his grave. And he goes back to his room and he sees this really weird antique on his nightstand. He tells Lisa everything, and she takes him to this library to learn more about this antique object. And this librarian, who was a friend of his father, tells him more about this antique. He tells him that his father got it from somebody called Andrew Williams, who was an archaeologist. And allegedly, this dude discovered it in Iraq. And this object, was used to expel demons. And these objects are apparently all over Iraq, and everybody's afraid to touch them because they don't want to be cursed. And the man that discovered this object, this Andrew guy, apparently went mad after he discovered it, and he killed his wife and severed his own tongue. But apparently this dude survived because his daughter saved him, and the librarian gives them the daughter's number. And just before they leave, he tells them that the cosmos needs balance. There needs to be death in order to be life, and life for death. The point he was trying to make was, evil must exist for there to be good. And around midnight, as Aaron was asleep, the lights suddenly go out and he hears a bunch of strange noises. And he goes out to see his neighbor who was looking for information in the rain. And the man collapses and falls to the ground from the heavy rain. But when Aaron sees that he's not dead, he's a little relieved, but his relief doesn't last long as a branch comes down and kills the man instantly. And the next morning, Aaron and Lisa visit the Williams. And Lynette, the daughter, lets them in, and she tells them all about this urn. And apparently there's this jinn inside, and it's going to keep expanding with each desire. And the only person that can tell them how to stop it is her father. And when Lynette talks to her father, he was still strapped to his wheelchair, but he reacts when she tells him that Aaron has one urn that has a jinn inside of it. And as Lisa and Aaron approach the house, they notice a disturbance coming from the backyard. And when they investigate, they find his mom's body hanging there. And then the demon approaches him while he's sitting in the dark, and he tries to persuade him to make a wish. And Aaron, unsure of what to do, grabs a revolver and prepares to shoot himself. And then he hears a knock on the door, he tries to slam it shut, and then it was Derek who just bursts in and tells him to leave Lisa alone. And when all of this happens, Aaron makes his wish. And after his wish, when he realizes that he's lost everything, he makes his final wish, which was to die in that accident that he survived. And as a result, Aaron's death was reported on the day Tyron's car struck him. And on the final days, Aaron's mom finally sells his things, and as Lisa was moving to Chicago, she gives her this lucky charm she found in Aaron's room. And that is how the movie ends. It's a pretty good one. I hope you guys check it out, and leave a comment if you liked my recap. Also leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on the next recap. Bye.